When my parents died in a car crash, I was only 17. Everything changed in an instant. 1 minute, we were a family. The next, I was standing in a funeral home staring at two coffins, clutching a scholarship offer letter in one hand and Grandma Ruth's trembling fingers in the other. My parents weren't rich, but they made sure I had what they never did, an education. They left behind just enough insurance and goodwill to set me on a path. I studied hard, skipped the parties, and built a life with one mission: make their sacrifice count. By 24, I'd landed a job that paid more than I could have dreamed. Full benefits, signing bonus, and a relocation package that helped me buy a modest home in a quiet neighborhood. And of course, the first person I moved in with me was Grandma. She raised me when my world fell apart, took care of me like I was her own. Bringing her into my new life was never a burden. It was a thank you. Then came Marla. She was charming, graceful, and came into my life like spring after a brutal winter. We met at a charity event. She said she liked my eyes, that they looked like they'd seen too much, but still believed in people. I married her 2 years later. Everyone said we looked perfect together. Young professional, beautiful wife, cozy home, and a sweet old lady who sat on the porch with a cup of tea and a watchful eye. But Grandma never warmed up to Marla. Not really. She was polite, sure, but never trusting. Every night before bed, I kissed Grandma on the forehead, and she'd whisper the same 5 words. "You don't deserve her, Eli." I'd chuckle, brush it off. "Don't say that, Grandma. She loves me." But her response never changed. "You don't deserve her." I thought it was age. Maybe confusion. Maybe grief speaking in riddles. After all, she'd seen enough loss to make her suspicious of happiness. I didn't press it. Until the night she walked into our bedroom, stood over me in the dark, and whispered, "Go look." Before we dive into the story, we'll love to thank you for your continued support to this channel. If you enjoy this story and stories like this, kindly subscribe and hit on the notification button so you don't miss any of our stories. We will love to hear from you also. Tell us where you're watching from in the comment section. We'll love to give you a shout out in our next video. Now let's begin. At first, I thought I was dreaming. Her voice had that same eerie calm it always had, but something about it cut through sleep like a cold draft. "Eli," she whispered, "go look." I blinked, adjusted to the shadows, and sat up. The room was empty, no Marla. The sheets beside me were smooth, untouched. My heart started to pound as I stepped into the hallway. Grandma's door was cracked open. I glanced inside, empty, but the curtains were pulled aside. She'd been watching something. I walked slowly down the stairs, barefoot, silent. The house felt heavier than usual, as though something sacred had been broken. As I reached the bottom step, a glow flickered through the front window, the lawn lights. And then I saw them, through the glass. Marla, in her robe, barefoot, and a man I didn't recognize. Tall, wearing a hoodie, standing just inches from her. They weren't touching, but their body language said enough. She was smiling in that way she reserved for secrets. The same way she smiled when she used to plan my birthday surprises. The same tilt of the head, the same hands behind the back. She leaned in, whispered something, and he laughed. I didn't move. I stood there in the dark hallway watching my wife flirt with a stranger on our lawn like it was her backyard escape. My fists clenched, but I made no sound. I waited. Watched as she touched his arm, as he brushed her cheek with a single finger, and as she looked around before stepping forward to kiss him. I stepped back into the shadows before she could see me. My entire body was trembling, but not from heartbreak. From fury. Betrayal doesn't break you all at once. It rots you quietly until the truth snaps the final string. I crept upstairs, back into Grandma's room. She was still awake, staring at the ceiling like she'd known this night was coming. "You saw?" she whispered. I nodded. "How long have you known?" She didn't look at me. Long enough to know she's not new to it. I didn't sleep. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Revenge needs silence. Stillness. I laid in bed and waited for her to come back. which she did, humming softly like nothing had happened. She slid under the covers beside me and kissed my shoulder like always. She had no idea I knew. That made everything easier. Because when you want to destroy someone without lifting a finger, the best thing to do is let them think they've won. Over the next week, I became a ghost. I let her live in her fantasy while I became the quiet husband again, just like she wanted. She went on lunch dates, stayed late at yoga, and told me about how stressed she was from trying so hard to keep this marriage together. But I was planning. With Grandma's help, I pulled every record I needed. The stranger she kissed? A bartender at a club downtown. They'd met a year ago. Photos, texts, calls, everything was backed up to our cloud. She never thought I'd look. That was her mistake. But that wasn't the real twist. The twist was that my late parents had left behind not just life insurance, but a trust. A substantial one. One I never touched. One I never even activated. Until now. And when I did, I found a clause they had written in. This fund is to be made available only to Eli or his legal wife, under the condition that the marriage is proven faithful after 5 years. We were 2 months shy. That's when I saw the opportunity. I told her I was applying for the trust release, that we'd finally have enough to buy the lake house she always wanted. Her eyes lit up. Suddenly, she was affectionate again, cooking, smiling, texting me during work hours with emojis she hadn't used in months. She even suggested we invite Grandma to live at the lake house until her time came. But I never filed for the trust. I filed for divorce. On the morning the documents arrived, I had the locks changed. Her suitcase was already packed and sitting by the door. And Grandma was on the porch, sipping tea, watching the sunrise like she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. When Marla came downstairs, still in her robe, she found me waiting with the papers. "What is this?" she asked, already pale. "You don't deserve me," I said. "But the truth is, you never did." Her mouth opened, but before she could speak, I added, "By the way, remember the trust? You're not getting a dime. You kissed him too early." She collapsed to her knees, sobbing. And I turned and kissed Grandma on the forehead. This time, she didn't whisper those words again. She just smiled and said, "You listened." If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button. Every click helps us tell more stories that speak to the soul. What would you have done if you were in Eli's shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments.